for so long, since TV was in black and white and John Barnes was lifting the trophy back in 1990. Liverpool against Palace, if they win that, and Chelsea, if Manchester City, I should say, drop points at Stamford Bridge, then they will walk out to a guard of honour at the Etihad Stadium on the 2nd of July. If City win and Liverpool win before that game at the Etihad, it goes down to that match on Thursday, which should be an absolute cracker. Look, John, it's inevitable, and as we said at the top of the show, it's a shame really that we've had this break, because it has sort of not tainted it, but it's taken away from how good the season has been from Liverpool.
How good the last 18 months have been. People forget last year, and that's obviously because when you lose, people are very disappointed. But I think we played better last year than we have done this year in terms of the consistency we showed to get 97 points, lose one game, won the Champions League. But of course, losing the league, it's a bit of disappointment. Whereas this year, we're going to win the league. We would have probably lose more games than we did last year, and we're going to be happy. So that's why you have to look at the progression Liverpool have shown in the last 2 years, the level of consistency that they've shown. So yes, it's a shame in terms of obviously the last nine games of the season, meaning that the fans aren't going to be there. But you can't take away what's happened. I mean, had it been 5 points, then you can say, well, and they won, it could be like, well, they may not have won. But being 25, 26 points better than everybody else before the shutdown shows what an incredible season they've had.
What was that like for you, just going back to 1990, when you were on the cusp of lifting that trophy? I mean, I know you've done it the season before, but when you were so close to do it.
It was tight. And what Liverpool have always done before I went was that they play matches. They don't play to win the league, they play to win the games. So of course, as you get in towards the end, when even if you're top and there's 2-3 games to go, all they were focusing on is the next match. Even if I think one year we won it and we won it with 3 or 4 games to go, but it was still the next match you have to perform. And that's what Jurgen Klopp does now. You're not thinking about winning the league, you're thinking about performing in the next game.
Yeah, well, I think you were 9 points clear of Villa, weren't you, back in 1990. In terms of being the earliest Premier League title winners, which Liverpool should still be, they deserve that crown, don't they? Ahead of Manchester City 2017-18, they won it with 5 games to spare, as did Manchester United 2001, I think.
Yeah, it will be the earliest and the latest, with 7 games to go in June, which sums up how strange the situation is. But yeah, that's exactly it. Interesting, John talking there about the kind of the culture at Liverpool that he came into, which is obviously there for what, 17, 20 years at that point, of repeat title after repeat title, and winning every game, which leads to winning titles, because that is really the culture that Klopp has reintroduced. And because obviously Liverpool aren't just waiting over this, the postponement from this crisis. It's a wait that goes much further. And really, after a fair few false dawns, I mean, they've been involved in about 3, you could say maybe 4 title races since 1990. But it's never quite had enough. Yet Klopp he's basically it's a modern version of an old culture.
Absolutely. It's about the team, not about the individuals, and the fans have bought into that. I think in previous years, even with the Gerrard and Torres and Suarez of these superstars, and they're not playing in a great team, whereby they were more important than the team, Klopp has brought back the old philosophy from Liverpool, whereby people may have felt that the old Liverpool was about Dalglish and Rush, for example, but it never was. It was about the Sammy Lees and the Jimmy Caseys and players like that. And Rush and Dalglish themselves felt that relationship and that value of their teammates. And it's exactly the same now. So you saw against Everton, no Salah, and in games where Firmino hasn't played and the superstars haven't played, and they haven't sulked. They haven't, even when they've lost and they haven't, or not played well when they haven't played, they haven't come out and the fans haven't said, oh, that's what we missed, because they completely trust Jurgen Klopp, and he's brought back this ethos of unity and togetherness just with the fans also. So, I'm hoping for him to stay for a long time and this team to stay together.
And to keep the momentum, because you said there, it's not, quite rightly, it's not the season, it's going back 18 months to building up to that Champions League final.
We're talking about greatest teams ever, and greatest teams ever have to have that longevity and consistency. Have a team who's played well for 1 or 2 years and even won the league, but then if this team doesn't go on to, I'm not saying win the league every year, but to consistently be with a chance of winning it. Because once upon a time, our greatest ever player was going to be Torres, but he left. Then Suarez, and he left, and Coutinho. So when we're talking early about, the legacy or is this the best player ever for Liverpool and the best team? Not if they don't stay. Is Klopp going to be Liverpool's greatest ever manager? Not if he leaves next year, he won't. But if he stays for a while to create that, then possibly.
But you can't sit still, can you, with this? And look, you need to keep building. I mean, are you convinced that Liverpool can take that momentum again and kick on even further next season?
I think they can, because even if from a playing perspective they need to improve or they need to generate new players, once again, the template that Liverpool has, there are lots of players out there. I was being, when I said Michael Brown, not Michael Brown obviously at 48 as he is now, but you can look at a player like that, or you look at a player who can come and fit into our midfield, whereby other clubs, Man City will go, no, he's not for us because of his technical ability, but he can fit into what Liverpool wants. So if Jurgen Klopp stays and he has this template, there are lots of players out there. I'm looking at, even at Leicester when he had Danny Drinkwater, we're talking about him, players who people would think may not be great players. They could fit into what Liverpool want and still make Liverpool be one of the best teams. So if Klopp stays and that philosophy stays, Liverpool is a team who I think can continue to be and maintain this consistency. Man City are always going to need special players. And I don't want to be disrespectful to Liverpool players saying they're not special, but in terms of what other people may think, we were always able to get players like that.
And in terms of fitting into what Liverpool are about and rebuilding ahead of what is going to be, you'd imagine an even more competitive season next season, depending what Chelsea do as well. Timo Werner, what was your take on that, him going to Chelsea? We thought for so long that it was someone Klopp was after, and we've seen what he could do in the Bundesliga. Terrific player, and would surely add something to Liverpool.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think as much as anything, it's a financial decision, and it's related to the Christ thing. I think with the way the Liverpool owners are, they're not going to make any decisions or any big financial decisions in the future while it's unknown, say, with issues like when we have fans back, given how crucial that is to revenue, because they're very prudent owners in that way. But it has maybe left Liverpool, I'm not going to say in danger, but maybe put them in risked a slight drop off, because I think, as we were talking off air as well, that front three is now 28. All of them are 28, and while they're in their prime, I suppose, I mean, ideally you'd want some variety to come in. There's maybe the slight danger of one dropping off, and it would just give them greater variety and greater strength in depth. And I suppose it goes back to the I mean, it was a maxim Ferguson always used to talk about, where you buy when you're on top to kind of consolidate your position. And maybe that's the slight risk, although I think Klopp has proven throughout this time that he's been very forward thinking, and the signing of someone like Minamino is part of that as well.
But Minamino, I guess, is he's willing to sit there and learn. Would for example, Werner want to come in?
No one's taking that into consideration. And we always think that Liverpool have lost out because Chelsea they paid more money, but you have to think about Timo Werner's decision. Because Timo Werner may feel, when I go, I want to play every week, and
Sadio Mane is playing on
that which he will play at Chelsea probably every week. Whereas will he be happy to come to Liverpool and be on the bench and come on now and again, saying that in 2 years' time you're going to play regularly? So as much as people have to take into consideration, maybe it was his decision as well. And once again, Liverpool do not want a player who is going to come and may upset the apple cart because he's not playing and he wants to play every week, and then the harmony is not right. Whereas I'm sure if Timo Werner would be happy to come and be on the bench and start on the bench, because you're not really going to put him ahead of those two at this moment, then possibly Liverpool may have pushed harder for him. So maybe Timo Werner said he wants a guarantee that he's going to play every week, which Klopp couldn't give him, so he goes to Chelsea. And what Liverpool don't want is a player who doesn't want to come and play for them.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, well, look, and the person in that position who he would have to take out the team is Sadio Mane.
I mean, he can play on the right as well, but he's not going to take out Salah's position, and he's not a centre forward like Firmino. He likes coming in from wide positions rather than playing his back to goal as Firmino does. So, it is the right decision.
What have you made of the Mane season? Because the season before was all about Salah, and this season was all about Mane. He's been terrific, isn't he?
Well, it points to what John was saying about how there's no prime star now, because it's almost like they've been on relay. When one has dropped off, the other has risen, and that's kind of been the case through the team. And I think it points to the kind of natural cohesion of the team. And I think, it is really impressive from Mane himself. I mean, given that, not that he was an afterthought, say, 2 seasons ago, but he was almost like just another forward for them while Salah was kind of ripping up the Premier League in 2017-18. And for Mane to come on from that and basically have the same sort of season as Salah emphasises that strength and how difficult it is to pin Liverpool down in any kind of way.
He had a great season last year. People are talking about him this year, and it was Salah last year, but take Salah out of last season, Mane was incredible. He had a fantastic season, but of course when you have a player who, it's a little bit like we're talking about Mane now and not Salah, but Salah's had a fantastic season as well. But when one player dominates, you kind of like get overshadowed. And in many respects, my favourite of the front three is Firmino. And every now and again, because he's technical, in tight areas he plays really well, he works hard, and everybody has their own value. People may have their favourites. My favourite is Firmino, to people like Salah, like Mane, but I think that their value, regardless of who is seen as the best because they've scored more goals, the value to the team and Jurgen Klopp and the fans' appreciation is equal.
Well, that's why they're going to be champions, isn't it? They all complement each other through those different qualities.
Yeah, I mean, look, you kind of think of it, don't you, in the summer of like a Formula One car, you're tinkering with something which is already so incredibly fine-tuned, and this is what Liverpool are going to have to try and do, because it is those small, fine margins to gain on Manchester City and the other ones who are trying to be the pretenders behind you. Where are those changes necessary then for Liverpool?
Strength in depth. I mean, you saw Manchester City making 8 changes, and they play the same when they win 5-0, whereas when Liverpool make changes, then obviously you can see even the game against Everton, for example. But I think it's more to do with the fact that they're just so, when you look at Liverpool play, a lot of their attacking impetus comes from the relationship between the fullbacks and the two wide players. And when all of a sudden one fullback isn't playing, as it was an Andy Robertson, and then Minamino comes in instead of, then all of a sudden the equilibrium will be upset, and that's when you then look to the quality of the individual players, particularly in midfield, to create something. And then when that doesn't happen, fans get disappointed and say, what we need is a Kevin De Bruyne. But I would put up with that all day long for us to show the consistency we've shown 99% of the time. So on the odd occasion, as we showed against Everton or against Watford when we lost against Watford, and fans were disappointed that we didn't have any more creative players. But for us not having creative players, we're 25 points better than Manchester City.
Yeah.
So I think Liverpool fans have to understand and be appreciative of the team we are, the type of team we are, the consistency we show with the type of players we have. And a lot of people talk about, let's get Coutinho back and let's get an attacking midfield player. De Bruyne or Coutinho coming to Liverpool would be fantastic for De Bruyne and Coutinho. The team won't play as well. So Jurgen Klopp has it right in terms of what he wants, and because we've given him the power to resist the pressure from the fans to sign superstar players or attacking midfield players or the type of players they want. We trust him. He's fortunate that he can make any decision he likes.
Yeah, let's get a fan's point of view, shall we? Let's speak to Neil Atkinson from the Anfield Wrap. Neil, good to have you on the show. John Barnes and Miguel Delaney in the studio with me. And John saying earlier, look, it doesn't matter when Liverpool win it, they're going to win it. So look, we all know you're going to win it. We know that you would have loved to have won it at Goodison across Stanley Park. And am I putting words into your mouth saying you'd quite like to beat City and win it at the Etihad?
The main thing at the minute is it's tough enough just to get a drink. So planning a celebration, scheduling that on top of everything else that's going on makes it really, really tough. So, it would have been great if they could have beaten Everton, mainly just for personal convenience, to be quite honest with you. So we could have all planned for Wednesday night. As it is, listen, it'll come. John's absolutely right. It will come. It'll come at some stage. It may not come at the Etihad. They might beat Palace. City might beat Chelsea, and Liverpool can lose at the Etihad. City are a really, really good side. They're showing that. But I think it will be done by the Etihad. And then we can all relax a little bit and then look to see if Liverpool can get that points record. Does it feel a bit subdued, or is that, again, me putting words in your mouth? Does it feel a little bit tainted with what's happened, given how dominant you have been over 18 months? I mean, it sort of has to be in a strange way, but then the separate part of that, and John knows better than anyone, you don't win the league the day they give you the trophy, or the day you mathematically won it. You win it when you go to left and score 4. When you beat Manchester United at home 2-0 with a late Mo Salah winner, and then you get to go out in town for the rest of your lives. We've celebrated it as we've gone right the way through, win after win after win after win. So, and that's how this league's been won. You won it over the long term. So we've had those celebrations. Jurgen says we'll have the parade as and when we're ready for it next season. So that's fantastic. So, yeah, we will miss out that day, that big blowout to an extent. That won't quite be as possible as it would have been. But apart from that, listen, I was out Leicester on Boxing Day. It's one of the best nights I've ever had watching Liverpool. Look, and we're talking about a man who is absolutely true to his word, aren't we, in Jurgen Klopp. I remember that first press conference, Neil, when he sat down, I think it was at Anfield, when he was unveiled as manager, and he said, look, 4 years, give me 4 years. Well, 4 years on, he's lifted the Champions League trophy and he's about to lift the Premier League. Yeah, I mean, he's done brilliantly well, and you were speaking there before, John was speaking about the way Jurgen's had the room to create the side he's wanted, and I think he's really thought about it a great deal. I think he's changed his mind a few times, and he's also reacted brilliantly to his players' development. John talking there about the fullbacks. The fullbacks were a major part of Liverpool's play at the start of the 17-18 season, whereas now the side is built to empower them as much as possible to get the very best out of them on a regular basis. And Jurgen's watched those footballers grow and develop, and what he's actually done there then is he's then tweaked what he wanted. For a period of time he was linked a great deal with Mohamed Dahoud, who's now at Dortmund. He was a very good player, and then Jurgen watched his side some more, watched some more Premier League football, saw how they interacted and decided he didn't need that sort of player. And I think that within all of this, Jurgen's, the combination of that sort of responding to the development that he's getting out of his own players on the one hand, but also the long-term planning that he's put in place on the other, is what's got Liverpool to this point. But even now, I think Jurgen himself is at times, Wolves away is a really good example this season, where, I'd have took a point, Jurgen would have took a point, but those players and the mentality they have between them, they weren't going to take a point, and in the end Liverpool get a 2-1, which maybe they didn't quite deserve, but it was the sheer will to win. And this season you can maybe argue that Manchester City, when they've played, might have just about played better football, but Liverpool have been well better when it comes to winning football matches, and that's what it comes down to, and that's why Liverpool are 20-odd points clear. Neil, Miguel here. You mentioned there about how titles aren't won on a day, they're obviously won over the course of a season. Yeah, in Liverpool's case, this has been title form really for over 2 years now, and it's become apparent that a juncture moment
was the sale of Coutinho and subsequent signings, which kind of speaks to Klopp as well. At that moment, did you fear it was going to be the same old when Coutinho left? Because it did look like we were going to get back into an old pattern almost.
Not by that point, no. I mean, yeah, I was always a little bit of a Coutinho sceptic, not least for the reasons that John's been sort of pointing out earlier on as well. I think Coutinho very much, and one of the reasons he struggled at Barcelona, I think, is he needs a side to be built around him, whereas Liverpool work much better when they're being greater than some of their own parts. But in general, it felt by that point Liverpool were on a trajectory. Now, you know, you've got to remember that this comes at the point where Manchester City played the best football they played, full stop. The autumn of 2017 going into the new year of 2018 was the best football Manchester City played. They were absolutely unbelievable, and it looked like an enormous mountain to climb. But in terms of whether or not Liverpool could at least get near that and do what they go on to do in Europe, I didn't think that was in any way sort of impacted by the loss of Coutinho at that stage. So it always felt as though there was still growth to get to. Listen, I never thought, you know, I didn't think many sides would ever get sort of 2 seasons that are around the 100-point mark. I mean, it's absolutely unbelievable when you stop to think about it. If Liverpool go on and do that, another 97-point plus season will just be absolutely incredible. It's an unreal number of games to win. So I'm not saying that I always thought, well, we'll get to that point, but it felt like the direction of travel was right then.
John, what would you say to these Liverpool fans watching around the world, and to Neil as well? Because look, when you lifted that First Division trophy back in 1990, there's no way you thought it was going to be 30 years until Liverpool won the next league title. And look, we talk about pain, because look, this isn't me trying to sandwich Manchester City into your Liverpool chat, but it's different types of pain. You know, they've been losing to Wycombe Wanderers, to York, to Lincoln, to Macclesfield. You guys have been still winning Champions League trophies. But
that's a different Manchester City. I mean, you're Manchester City, you're just trying to tell us that, you know, the glory hunt you supported them when in the bad old days. I knew you had to get that in once again, but that's a different Man City.
No, but in terms of that weight and that weight for those fans.
It depends, half full, half empty the glass, depends on which way you look at it. So while it's been a 30-year wait, 4 years ago at a 26-year wait, I thought it'd probably been another 10, 15 years. So 4 years ago, after 26 years, I said, well, we're going to have to wait for another 15 years before we win the league, but we've only had to wait 4 years. Because when Jurgen Klopp first came, I could not see them doing what they're actually doing now. Yes, you can see when Brendan Rodgers was there on the Steven Gerrard slip, and that was a situation whereby we were a little bit unlucky. But I felt that when Jurgen Klopp, what he's actually done, not in his first 2 years, in the last 2 years, I expect Liverpool now to show this level of consistency. As I said, not to say we're going to win it every year, but I know that every year we're going to be up there with a chance. So hindsight's a great thing. Probably 91, 92, I still felt, yes, Man United are coming back and we've got a chance. 93, 94, coming into March, we're there or thereabouts. Probably about after 95 is when I realised that we are now, and that's when the whole idea of being a top 4 team became important, the Champions League. And when people talk about, any fan talking about it, we want to be in the top 4, they mean 3rd or 4th. They don't mean 1st or 2nd. Man City don't say we want to be in the top 4, they say we want to win. A team who says we want to be in the top 4 means 3rd or 4th, and that's what we became, 3rd or 4th at best.
But in 1990, obviously, you didn't feel that was the end of anything, did you?
Oh, not at all. No, as I said, up until 91, 92, and we still felt, because don't forget, we've been winning so much up until that point, that 92, 93, it was like, I rubbed some of my kiddies standing in 92, but Liverpool were still, you know, 2nd, 3rd, and because we've been winning, we're going to do that. That's why until 95, when I really realised that, hang on a second, you know, it's been since 1990, and we're really not showing much progression, and that is when I probably thought that that's when we wanted to be a top 4 team, not a 1st or 2nd. That's Arsenal and Manchester United, a top 4 team.
Yeah, Neil, we haven't even mentioned the Merseyside derby, which, you know, John was at, and I think you said it was like a training match. It was a little bit lacklustre, wasn't it, in terms of as Merseyside derbies go. But you've got to keep your half of the bargain going, and you've got to beat Crystal Palace, of course, especially if you want to win it at the Etihad. And this is against Roy Hodgson, who may feel a little bit hurt during his time at Liverpool. Christian Benteke. There are a few little banana skins knocking about there, aren't there, from that point of view?
Definitely, but, you know, if Roy Hodgson wants to feel hurt at his time at Liverpool, he should have respected Liverpool and been a better football manager whilst he was there. In general, I think around this, you know, the derby against Everton, it's worth pointing out Liverpool have only scored 1 goal in normal time at Goodison since 2013. I felt a lot of it was shaped like a normal Merseyside derby, but as John says, the intensity just dialed down a notch. Certainly like one at Goodison in recent years, Liverpool have been absolutely brilliant against Everton at Anfield, but at Goodison it's been a slog at times, and I think that's spoken to Jurgen Klopp. I think Klopp himself used the fixture as one with a massive history, and he just wants to get through it and get the other side. And I think you see the same thing when Jurgen goes to Old Trafford. He's quite happy with a draw. See if we can nick one, and that used to be the way Ferguson used to line up when he brought Manchester United to Anfield. It's a perfectly valid way to play football. Palace, Liverpool, you'd like to think should have too much for them. It was hard to gauge Palace really because they got the 2 goals quickly against Bournemouth and just managed the game really, really well. Kept Bournemouth at arm's length, but that was as much about Bournemouth as it was about Palace. And I think we will get 1 or 2 slightly strange results, and a lot of these games are going to come down to timings of goals, I reckon. But listen, Liverpool should beat Crystal Palace. You'd expect them to under normal circumstances, and you'd expect them to under these circumstances. I do think it'll be a good game, and Liverpool get all 3 points, and then they can go to the Etihad, and I bet you that game won't be short of intensity.
No, absolutely. Well, look, Neil, really appreciate you coming on the show, and enjoy those title celebrations when they come. That's Neil Atkinson from the Anfield Wrap. Let's hear from Jurgen Klopp then ahead of Liverpool against Crystal Palace on Wednesday.
It is a game against a very, very good side. Roy is doing an incredible job there. So the organization of the team is really, really, really highest level. Meanwhile, the team is physically strong. They have good individuals. It's a good setup. That all works pretty well. They have 4 games in a row, I think, without conceding a goal. So that's all very positive from their point of view. But we have our own targets, our own aims. We want to go with all we have, and we want to make a special game for us of this game. So it's of course important who we play, but whoever we would play, it would be the same with the specific information about the opponent. And in this case, it's Crystal Palace in a good moment. So that's all what we need to know. And from this point, we have to start our plan and what we want to do in this game. So
Salah and Robertson available, ready to play against Crystal Palace, and I guess really encouraging, obviously, to have Mo Salah back fit, but Robertson, because down that left-hand side, it showed, didn't it, when Joe Gomez was playing left wing back, the lack of threat there when he's not in the team.
Absolutely, and as I said, the relationship between Mane and Robertson and Trent Alexander and Salah is so vital, and what makes it actually work is our 3 midfield players, because all 4 of them can attack at the same time, knowing that our 3 midfield players are going to supplement that and defend any Fabinho or Henderson or Milner, whoever plays there. And that is why when people talk about having a creative midfield player in there, or Coutinho or Kevin De Bruyne, that will work against our fullbacks. So Crystal Palace is going to be a difficult game. If you look at the Bournemouth game, Bournemouth had a lot of possession. Crystal Palace defended on the halfway line and made it very compact, very much like Everton did. And in a funny sort of way, the fact that there was no crowd, I was speaking to Tim Cahill about this, worked in Everton's favour, because when Everton's home crowd get behind them, Everton attack and they get players forward. And if you attack Liverpool and get players forward in numbers, on the counter-attack you can get killed. Whereas with no crowd there to push Everton on, Everton defended deep, let Liverpool have possession, and in tight areas when teams defend deep against us, that's not what we want. We want the space for Salah and Mane and our runners. So I think it really depends on how Crystal Palace approach this game. If they come and have an open game with Zaha and people going forward, I think we'll beat them. But the way they played against Bournemouth, and they're in a good form, and even last year they gave us problems, it's going to be a hard game.
Yeah.